Good morning.
How you doing? That's your old pal, Jamie Foxx.
That's who was singing that? Blame it on the alcohol?
Yeah, it's Jamie Foxx featuring T-Pain and Ron Howard.
Ron Howard from Happy Days?
Yeah, he's in the music video.
No, but is that who the Ron Howard is?
Yeah. Ron Howard's in that music video.
Ron Howard.
Yeah, the Ron Howard. It's a Hype Williams music video, and it starts with Jake Gyllenhaal, Forrest Whitaker, Jamie Foxx, and Ron Howard pulling up to the club in slow motion.
Yeah, slow motion Ron Howard walking into the club is not something I knew I needed this morning, but...
in one limo?
Yeah.
Were they all together in the limo?
Not a limo, like a drop top.
Who gets to go out first in that
Jake Gyllenhaal,
group of four?
Jake Gyllenhaal wearing a massive scarf and fedora.
Is first the one that is at the top of the hierarchy or last?
Last, when you're slow motion walking into a club, it's last that's a headliner, and Ron Howard got last.
Yeah, I
He
think in this
negotiated
case
that.
it's first. It's definitely negotiated.
Howard.
By the way, the order.
That is just...
Excellent timing, Chris.
He wears that.
I mean, Ron Howard walking,
Same man.
it's just fantastic. Right? Like, I imagine that his agent pitches him that, and he's like, I can't do that. And his agent's like, hey, man, it'll keep you young. Much
And you're
younger
going to be
audience.
last out of the car.
He's David Samson, host of Nothing Personal with David Samson. Follow him on Twitter at David P. Samson. We'll be smoking that Pat Riley pack in just a little bit. But David, welcome aboard to the show. It's Super Bowl week, and commercialism is everywhere. The World Series doesn't ever put its hooks into the people the way that the Super Bowl does. And granted, it's not apples to apples. It's a one-game standalone event with 2 weeks of hype. What was the plan internally to really grow the World Series? Because during your time in baseball, you saw how those ratings declined for the biggest event that your sport has to offer. Were there any creative ideas to really spruce up the national pastime's biggest playoff series?
Yeah, try to arrange it so there's always a game 7. That's really the best thing you can do. That's what you're told before the series starts, right? You meet with the umpires and say, listen, if any chance we cannot do a sweep this year, we've got to get to 7 games, because that's when the excitement comes. It's a win or go home and elimination games. That's the whole reason why the March Madness is so great and the Super Bowl is so great, because it's permanent. Like game 2, all right, we lost game 2, and then you do all the stats. Winners of game 2 in a 7-game series win 69% of the time.
When I was at ESPN, I heard that if the NBA Finals is a sweep, it is a big time financial loser. If it goes 5, it's still a financial loser. If it goes 6, it's break even. If it goes 7, buku bucks. Did baseball have a similar structure with their TV partners when it came to the World Series?
Yeah, except 6 is not break even. 6, you're making money. So it's exactly like that. But 6 is good.
David,
7 would be great, but 6 is okay.
on the subject of ideas to try and spruce things up, is there an idea that you pitched during your time in Major League Baseball to the rest of baseball that they just summarily laughed at and dismissed at, but you still believe is a good idea
a lot
for the
of
sport?
them, right? You were counterculture. Weren't you being laughed at all the time because the old people didn't want your stuff?
It was all the time. I had a relationship, and still do, with Jason Stark, and we would talk for hours about ideas that, and he printed many of them that came from me, and I did it back in the day without attribution. But now I'm happy to do it. I was the one who thought of, in terms of how to change batting orders. We need excitement in baseball. But on a side note, before I answer that question, we are Super Bowl week, and the NBA has dominated. Do you know how angry Roger Goodell is about Kevin Durant being traded overnight? Like, do you guys realize what goes on in the commissioner's office when there are leagues that take over? They don't like each other. They pretend they do. But like when the commissioners get together for that great photo, and Goodell and Bettman and Garber and Silver and Manfred, right? It's not like they go fishing together. This is supposed to be Goodell's week, and no one cares about the Super Bowl 72 hours before it starts, except you guys, by the way.
I love the idea. You guys have me thinking now. This is more of just a show idea than like a big picture idea for baseball. Like 2 or 3 days before the next World Series, we just go to whatever city it is and then set up one table in like a whole convention center that's completely empty and call it World Series Radio Row.
I think it's an outstanding idea because it can't be worse than what you guys are doing in Radio Row right now, right? You can go.
I mean, I'd agree.
I mean,
We haven't had the most stellar week so far.
Listen, I understand and respect what you're trying to do, and I even have some empathy, if not a little sympathy. That said, it's so obvious that you're sucking at the teat of the NFL. There's a lot of other sports out there that we can cover as a company, that you can cover as a company. And I think having the World Series, the Academy Awards, send Adnan and Stugotz in a tuxedo. Let Adnan show how cool he is and how much he knows, and let Stugotz try to interview Charlize Theron. How great would that be for Metalark?
I will remind both the audience and the shipping container that the Super Bowl Radio Row was down the street, and I refused to go.
Yeah,
it was down the street from us at the convention center. I am being strong-armed by the people who work for this company because they want to cover this thing. I'd be perfectly fine not talking about it all week.
You're such a hipster, Dan. Ooh, you're so cool.
Wait, we can talk about it, but I'm just saying the way that you're allocating resources is really quite something.
It's a damn good game. I would love to talk about it. You didn't answer Whittingham's question. However, I think you made the claim that you invented batting your best hitter second.
Something. You said you were in the middle of saying.
I had the idea that in the ninth inning you can have whoever you want at the plate, no matter what the order is.
We thought of magic at bats.
Magic
How
at
are
bats.
you taking that?
Nope.
Did you come up with a smoke bomb too?
What?
A smoke bomb like from a legal weed store? What is that?
No, a smoke bomb that would reveal the hitter that appears in the ninth inning.
Some flair.
You did not come up with the magic at bat.
Oh my
Dude,
God.
listen to our show in
Listen to this
2015.
guy.
We also came up with every team could put a pond in their outfield, but every team could decide where their pond goes. Home
Trampoline
field
warning
advantage.
tracks. That's us too.
Do you remember Tal's Hill in Houston?
Yes?
Yeah, so those are not really allowed anymore by the union. The players didn't like those. I'm happy to go back and go back to the article because I know that it appeared and I can actually ask Jason. I do not believe, why would I have copied something that you had said, Chris?
It's an accusation that gets made around here all the time. Yesterday, it was Mina Kimes offended because Tony is claiming that she stole his takes. Also, they wanted to put a pool of rubber balls, I think, in the outfield. Ball
for
pit.
safety.
Yeah, we ran that one by Jim Leland.
This was 2014. We did this, David. I don't know when you did
This is
it.
what Jim Leland had to say about this idea, David Samson.
How do we feel about this one, Jim? We lower the outfield walls with safer landing spots behind them, such as water or ball pits. That's Mike Ryan's idea. I think it's a good one. We're eliminating the outfield fences because kids love when anyone jumps into a ball tank.
Okay.
That would probably be a little bit more exciting if what you're saying is you shorten the fences so they would jump over the fences.
Yes.
That's really not a bad idea.
Yes.
God, Stugotz sounded so much better back then.
You guys celebrating it, Jim Leland saying it's not a bad idea. What is he going to say live on the show?
Oh, no, he told us which ideas he thought were bad. Come on.
Wasn't a fan of the ponds.
You know Leland. Get out of here, Dave. You think he's going to suffer fools gladly just to make it look like he likes us? If he's got no time for us, he'd tell us.
Well, can you tell the Greg Zahn story?
Which one?
Wait, David, have you ever heard the Jim Leland, Greg Zahn story from Dan?
No.
The stealing the bases one?
Yes. Greg Zahn wanted to know what the sign was for, they were going over the signs and what the sign was for backup catcher Greg Zahn stealing the base. And Jim Leland said, if I jump up and never come down.
No. Do the voice. Do the voice. Do the Jim Leland voice, please.
All right. You could steal a base when I jump up and never come down.
That's Jim Leland.
It's
not that long ago that he was having heaters in the dugout.
Who else smoked heaters in the dugout? Who else?
Lou Piniella.
Who on your time? Who
Did
smoked?
McKeon ever smoke a stogie during the game?
He had them lit, but they were behind because Jeffrey was very anti-smoking anything and got upset about it. And Jeffrey wouldn't travel with the team, not because he pulled a Springsteen and took his own plane and left the rest of the group to fly separately. It's that he didn't want to be around smoke of any kind. And all incorrect. Many players smoke cigarettes. Many players smoke pot. Many players smoke cigars. And he just didn't like being around it. So he would make Jack do it behind. And Major League Baseball actually changed its rule that all of the cigarettes had to be done out of camera view, because Jim Leland's not the only one. Lou Piniel's not the only one. Players smoke.
Who smoked more heaters than Dan Uggla? I remember seeing him at Off the Hookah just crushing heaters during beer pong games.
Tarpon Bend with his Abercrombie oversized jeans and flip-flops. It's just a terrible look back then. Fashion has really come a long way since Ron Howard was slow walking into the club.
Shirts with
There were
rhinestones
NBA
as
players who smoked cigarettes. There were football players, right? It wasn't a thing. It's still not really a thing, except more and more players, I guess, are vaping now because it's easier to hide and do it on the airplanes. And but yeah, Dan Uggla, been out a few times with Dan Uggla. He can have some fun. He was going to get old one day. My story with Dan Uggla was just, I don't know why he didn't listen to me. You can't keep the schedule he had and expect to perform over a long period of time. You just can't do it.
The schedule. I love that. Dude was at Las Olas every night.
It was a schedule. Don't kid yourself.
Dude, so many Affliction shirts. I remember I had one night at Automatic Slims with Uggla and Jeremy Hermida. The world was our oyster.
Have you guys
you were picking up scraps?
Have you guys been to Fort Lauderdale recently? Because that strip of land is totally dead.
It's so sad.
I cannot believe how dead that strip of land is. Totally gutted. That used to be.
Well, they have the wharfs over there now, but it's totally, you're right. It's not as not
Slims. What a time.
Yeah, that corner specifically is sad. The Second Avenue kind of still has bars like where America's Backyard is, but yes, it's totally different. I one time got mocked by Jake Long outside of Automatic Slims. Him and all his big friends are walking out as me and a couple of my not so big friends are walking in, and they did the thing where they're like, "Whoa, big guy's walking in," and like me and my three friends are just like, "Thanks, Jake Long. I was real excited to see you until you started mocking me and my friends."
We should reopen.
What time do you have Stugotz starting his responsibilities on Phoenix time?
Does it even matter? Does it even matter what time we have him starting his responsibilities?
I'm just curious how it works because of the time difference. Are you recording stuff just later?
In a couple of hours, Stugotz will show up around here, and hopefully he will give us some of what it is he's being paid to give us while he's out there. We will find out together if that happens. But I wanted to ask you, as Kevin Durant gets traded overnight, I doubt very many people listening to this are learning it as I say it, but it did happen at 2 o'clock in the morning, and Kevin Durant ends up a Phoenix Sun. And as the trade deadline approaches today, David, I wanted to ask you the most excited you ever were personally. I don't know how much excitement you do about these things, about a trade involving your team where you were just gassed up because whatever, it was something that made you more thrilled than most transactions.
It ended up being one of the worst transactions ever, but you have to go back and think about where we were and what was going on in our lives at the time. And that's how trades work at the deadline.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I have to jump in right now. We are scrolling through photos of Automatic Slims, and we just stumbled upon Mike Ryan taking a shot at the bar.
Is that me? That might be me.
You guys had to interrupt what David was saying because you saw a photo on your computer?
Yeah, huge
but I
breaking
can't even
news.
see it.
Oh, no. We're going to send it to you.
There's an arm in front of your face.
That might be my chin. It's certainly my sideburns, Dan.
I know Mike's chin.
Yeah. Is that me?
Is there a video component to this show, Dan?
There is
YouTube.com/LeBatard and Friends.
There is a woman. Are you getting a shot from a woman who's standing on a bar?
I don't think it's me because I was not lifting back then, and this dude's chest is beefy.
What was the most excited you were about a trade, David?
I'm embarrassed to tell you because you guys are going to make fun of it, but you're doing that in hindsight, which is what fans do. And you have to go back to what it was like the day of the trade. When we got a Fernando Rodney in 2016, we thought, remember, Jose was still alive. We were a good team, and we thought that there was a chance that he was going to carry us by combining him at the back of the bullpen and lengthening our bullpen. And we loved our lineup, and it was great. And he was lights out for the Padres in the beginning of that year. He was an all-star. Don't forget that year we sent Jose, AJ Ramos, Stanton, and Ozuna to the all-star game. We had 4 all-stars. And Rodney, when he came into the clubhouse, we knew what we were getting, and we thought we'd pair him at the back of the bullpen. And it turns out he couldn't get anyone out for us. and we saw it happening as it was happening, and we knew there was nothing we could do. We weren't upset that we had traded Chris Paddock. Whatever he'd become, he'd become. We were going for it. But there's no worse feeling than making a deadline trade and then watching it not work. And that's what you're going to see in the NBA. Can you imagine Matt Ishbia? He goes all in. He hasn't even unpacked his boxes from being approved 29-0 with one abstention. And he goes all in like this. And the odds are he's not going to win anything. And that makes me laugh.
Are you sure about that? Are you sure he's not going? I mean, the odds are he's not going to win anything, but Mike Ryan is crushed today. Mike Ryan has joined Heat Twitter in immediately doing the thing that Heat Twitter loves to do, which is call Pat Riley wash.
Dan, it's time for him to hang him up. And I know this happened after his bedtime, which is probably 6:00 p.m.
Oh, my God.
But this
is disrespectful.
He got
so disrespectful.
I cannot believe Isaiah Thomas got Kevin Durant.
Isaiah Thomas doesn't work for the Suns.
No, he does now.
Yeah, he strolls into his office.
He's a consultant
and he
now.
takes Kevin Durant away from the Miami Heat. Did you see that trade package? We could have done that.
4 first-round picks.
We could have done that. I was holding out hope the entire season that we'd get Kevin Durant. Pat Riley, you have now 7 hours to trade for Damian Lillard, or I'm forcing you to resign. This is terrible. What has happened to my Miami Heat?
What has happened to you?
Are you okay?
We just got.
Is this a bit, or do you really feel
just
this
strolls into the NBA and goes whale hunting and takes Kevin Durant away from us. We're supposed to have Kevin Durant. That was our birthright.
I would guess that this is at least a combination when I look at this package of players. I don't immediately go to the Heat did not have enough to do that. I immediately go to the combination of the Nets didn't want to trade him in the East, and the Phoenix Suns is somewhere that Kevin Durant wants to be because he wants to go after Golden State as a Phoenix Sun.
Oh,
do you have information, Mike, that I don't have? There are rules in the NBA that obviously I'm sure you know better than I about which picks can be traded, consecutive years, et cetera. And I'd have to look at what the Heat capital is. But do you think that they've got
no?
They could have matched that offer?
Cannot. They cannot trade 4 first-round picks.
So then what are you talking about?
Their
then?
25,
I'm just asking.
They owe their 25 pick to Oklahoma City, so they could have traded 27, 29, and 23.
Yeah,
but they couldn't have matched Phoenix's offer, which is now the most valued thing.
They
right?
could have thrown a better player in there, like Tyler Hero. They could have done something. And now Jimmy Butler's saying Kyle Lowry's not going anywhere. I was at the game yesterday. I don't know who Orlando Robinson is. I'm mad.
Wait a minute. Orlando Robinson's the guy that made Dwayne Dedmon expendable. And Ethan Skolnick is reporting that even if Kyle Lowry remains here, he might not play anymore this season because things have gotten that bad between him and the Heat.
Good.
You shouldn't play him anymore.
No, he's a net negative. What has
Kyle
happened?
Riley's made mistakes, but don't you think he's earned the right to leave whenever he wants to leave?
I'm obviously, David, I'm joking. I'm doing radio right now, but this was when we landed the whale.
But Mike, the Nets just got worse. The Heat's chances of doing something in the playoffs just got better.
Just wait for other teams to tank, I guess. That's
I'm
new
just
strategy.
saying, though, like, this isn't like, I get it.
Nets.
Obviously, it'd be nice if the Heat traded for Kevin Durant, but he's out of the conference. Like, this isn't terrible for the Heat.
They're so much worse now than they were last year. It's just the window is the window is shut.
You could go 20 years and not win a title, and you've had a huge success under Pat Riley.
Yeah, massive.
20 years.
Dude, they were a Max Strus heel away from making the NBA Finals for the second time in 3 years. But it's just they had a team that could compete. They were a piece away, and instead of acquiring that piece, they've lost pieces, and they've watched the East lap them. I mean, you're seeing, look at the standings right now. Granted, they're playing a little bit better because they finally listened to me and stopped playing Kyle Lowry, that albatross of a contract, a terrible basketball player, never good basketball player, fooled everyone. I don't know why they acquired that guy. Bum.
Where's the Carnival stock right now? Off the top of your head, do you know what Carnival's trading at?
Right. And that's another thing. All these trades,
just give me a number.
It seems as though they're prioritizing staying under the luxury tax because they're damn good at doing that than actually getting the big pieces to bring this team over that hump and win a title.
You a greatless wretch. It's unbelievable. You expect that Arison should do what Ishbia did, which is go $68 million over the luxury
Yes.
tax with this trade.
Yes.
$68 million
Yes.
he took on in tax
Yes.
because he's got new owner-itis
Yes.
and he's got tax breaks by buying a team the way he did this year for 5 years of great tax breaks. And you're criticizing Mickey Arison.
Did the
It's like a joke.
Saudis not offer Carnival a lifeline? If we're trading oil money for lifelines, I want Kevin Durant.
Okay.
I can't think of much that I want to talk about in sports less than taxes.
This is stupid.
But this is real, right?
Andy
Matt
Ellisberg
Ishbia
is the
going in.
greatest GM in the world when it comes to sending Dwayne Dedman away so this team can stay under the luxury tax. But when it comes to getting Kevin Durant,
That's not why
we're
they
the
traded
worst.
him. They traded him because he was disrespectful to Riley and to Spoelstra.
And I guess it was just a positive that it brought them under the luxury tax.
It was a
It's just
combination,
not
too.
even
It opened up
considered.
maneuverability here at the trade deadline.
For what?
My guess is they're going to search the buyout market.
They're going to get Jay Crowder
or John Wall or
So
something.
it's
or Russell Westbrook.
So what is it, Mike? Just get the best piece possible of it that's available or retire.
On the meme that has the stick that says do something. They've done less than nothing.
But then when we do something and it doesn't work, we get criticized for doing the wrong thing.
Do something.
But-
What have they done to get better? They've
Do you
done
know
nothing
why
to
you'll
get-
never
they
work for a team? Because
David,
of this.
David, they were a heel away from the NBA Finals.
And it's the same
This is a winner.
roster.
Jimmy
I was
Butler
a heel
becomes
away from making my junior varsity basketball team.
No, you weren't. You were very short. But
I know.
Jimmy,
Mike, it's the
Jimmy,
same roster.
Jimmy Butler becomes Michael Jordan every playoff. And we did nothing to capitalize on this. Nothing. The East was there. I don't believe the Boston Celtics are that much better. We could have done something here.
You know how the
yes,
Celtics got
mortgage the
good?
future. Pat Riley.
You know where Tatum and Brown came from?
Yeah,
remember?
Somehow the worst trade in Brooklyn Nets history, which wasn't the Kyrie Irving or Kevin Durant trade. It was the KG trade.
Or the James Harden trade.
Or the Harden for Simmons trade.
Well, there are a couple of things here that are really interesting about the Nets and the mismanagement. They're 10 games over 500, and they've traded a couple of Hall of Famers in a week. And, David, I think I've got this right when I say you will find very few mismanagements worse than they had James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and all the transactions to get rid of them, they didn't get a star.
they got a bunch of picks. We don't know if they got a star.
Well, they still haven't gotten a star, though. We're watching that they got rid of those three guys, and they haven't gotten a star.
No, but that's the whole point of when you get rid of guys like that is you're accumulating picks. I'm not sure I understand why you're saying they're mismanaged. Are you saying because they never won together? Or because they didn't give in to the Durant trade request before the season started, or because they suspended Irving for all of his actions?
I'm saying
and the
they're
COVID
mismanaged
vaccine?
because in the history of transactions, there's been rare is the time in the history of sports that three talents like that have gotten together, and that's been the result. 7 total playoff wins.
Yeah, 16
I think
games
it's
together.
more rare that you do what Pat Riley did and you get LeBron, Wade, and Bosh together and have the success they had. There's way more examples of big threes who don't work out than big threes who do.
Did the Nets screw the pooch here? Because they could have gotten a king's ransom. I know for a fact the Miami Heat offered something better over the summer. But now Kevin Durant, look, there's arguments to not acquire Kevin Durant. He's 35. Dude has an MCL injury every couple of months. He's off an Achilles. How much longer is he going to be this good? My whole thing is this roster that the Miami Heat have right now presently is older. They're in win now mode. We're the win now moves. They haven't happened yet. I'm really frustrated by
The
this.
win now move was
Are
getting.
they a win now team? They've
Yeah.
got Jimmy Butler as their star, and they've got
Bam. They got Bam.
I mean, but
They got
but- no,
Tyler.
but Bam's in his prime. Bam's young.
The Kyle Lowry move was a win now move.
That's what it was.
It failed.
Yeah, and that is ultimately like similar to how the Lakers are having to pay the price for that awful Russell Westbrook trade. The Heat are paying the price for the Kyle Lowry signing. It didn't work. It hasn't taken them like that was their big swing. Their big swing for this era was Kyle Lowry, and he is now probably a negative or even value asset that you're not going to get a ton from.
Terrible basketball player.
It could have just been what David said, that they didn't want to trade him in the East, and that the Heat wanted to make an offer, and they're just like, no, we'll
that
send him to the West.
Or that Kevin Durant walked into the office and said, I want to go to Phoenix.
Guys, I'm Joe Side myself. Okay, they had a package that was certainly better than what Phoenix had. They had to have had a package. So that is just gross mismanagement from the Brooklyn Nets.
What's the package then?
You put Tyler Hero in it.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
I mean, so Mikal Bridges and Tyler Hero, let's say they're commensurate players. Let's say
there's
that's
some
a
people
wash.
that like Mikal
Keep
Bridges
going.
more.
Right. I think that might be a fair assessment. But keep going.
Picks.
I
would have traded Bam. I would have
okay.
traded Bam for Kevin Durant. This is about winning a title. Jimmy Butler is getting older.
So if you're Kevin Durant, do you want to step into a situation with Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton, or a Heat team without Bam Adebayo? And you're joining
And
Jimmy Butler, and the rest of the crew, or do you want to join Ayton, Booker, and Paul?
Well, how's that team doing right now? And you can't count on Chris Paul.
Devin Booker's been out for 3 months.
Yeah, I mean they got a long road ahead of them too. I'd rather go to Miami.
That team in Phoenix was good enough last year to get to a Game 7 that before they short-circuited the last 2 years. That team
Conference semis.
has been close to championship good, and now add Durant.
And T.J. Warren.
They're in
They got
win
TJ
now.
Dan, what? This is the Godfather. This is the guy that makes a big move. He got Jimmy Butler with no cap space. I know what I'm doing is largely performative. I'm a huge admirer, and Pat Riley's the greatest. But the lack of movement and improvement from this team in this window, they made the NBA Finals a couple of years ago. What have they done to get better? They're just counting on Bam and Tyler to make massive leaps? It's not happening. They're barely as good as the Hawks.
Bam scored 38
Sometimes you
last
have
night.
to dance with the people you brought to the dance. And Pat Riley is famous for that since he's the one who coined that phrase.
Well, we're going to be off the dance floor in the second
Starks is
round.
going to go 3 for 18.
Max, we're going to be off the dance floor in the second round.
There are 3 teams better than them in the East, like clearly and obviously better, although many people, like Bill Simmons, are saying any team with Jimmy Butler scares the shit out of me, and Simmons is the Celtics fan.
Yeah, well, he's terrifying. If you talk to any Celtics fan, the shot that they didn't want to see was that Jimmy Butler transition 3 because he transforms in the playoffs. He's like Madison Bumgarner. There's no making any sense of it. In the playoffs, he becomes Jimmy Butler. I get it, which is why we want to make a trade and improve because it's still not enough. It's not enough. The other teams got better. They got worse. Where's the Pat Riley that's going into the gunfight?
But Mike, you think that he's not doing it because he can't do it or not doing it because he's not allowed to do it?
Because he can't.
What?
Because he
It's
can't.
not that.
I think
I'm just telling you what it is. It's not that.
He has tried for 5 years to get Kevin Durant. He's
I don't
failed
think
every
you
time.
realize
He
the
has been able
financial
to do it.
situation over at the Heat.
But they're already up. I mean, I don't think it's a financial thing. I think they have like close to $50 million in contracts that nobody would want. I mean, they're paying $28 million to Kyle Lowry. They're paying $16.9 to Duncan Robinson. They've made mistakes. It's made their roster worse. Their 3rd and 4th highest paid players are not effective. And that is hamstringing their ability, and they have never been able to maintain their full amount of first-round picks. The NBA now, if you're trading for a big star, the biggest star in this case, you have to have all 4 of your first-round picks.
Preach.
And the Miami Heat have never had theirs since they traded for Goran Dragic. They have not had their full complement of first-round picks. They had to get to the one that they own now to OKC to get off of Hassan Whiteside so they can sign Jimmy Butler. It's always to fix mistakes. And that is why you have to have 4 unprotected first-round picks and probably chuck in a few more swaps, too, if you're getting a player of Kevin Durant's quality. And the Heat are not going to have their full complement of first-round picks until 2025.
I do have breaking news.
And thank God they don't. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been competing for titles these last few years.
I have breaking news, and maybe I should walk everything back because it appears as though the Heat will join the Clippers and Bulls with potential interest in Russell Westbrook's buyout. So, my bad.
Slumming in the buyout market doesn't do it for you. I mean, it is pretty all or nothing on Kevin Durant over the last couple of years. They haven't made a trade in close to 700 days, but I will tell spoiled Heat fan Mike Ryan and spoiled Heat fans in general, you don't always get to be the team that gets the guy.
Yes, we are.
Sometimes
That's who we are. We are the team that gets a guy, whether it be Shaq or LeBron or Bosh. We always get the guy.
But who is creating that expectation? It's self-driven. If you follow Heat fans on Twitter, anytime a superstar becomes available, you Photoshop him with a Heat jersey on him, and you've already convinced yourself that Luka Doncic is coming to the Heat
Every
in 2
team
years.
does that.
This isn't no. This isn't
want stars. What are you guys doing?
Don't let Pat Riley off the hook.
For themselves.
Don't let Pat Riley off the hook. I've seen many a postseason press conference where the dude revels in this reputation. He revels in whale hunting. He's been fined for tampering on our show.
Because he does well, it doesn't mean he's always going to get them.
Yes, it does. He always does.
You don't think he tried to get Kevin Durant?
No,
of course
failed.
he did.
No, he failed.
The Suns had a better deal. The Suns had a better package.
He's
and
never
it's in the
failed more.
West.
He has never failed more at anything than his pursuit of Kevin Durant. That guy has been handed L after L after L. And right now he has a roster that's not.
What time did you wake up this morning and start this?
I never went to sleep.
Did you see the trade happen last night?
I saw the trade happen, and I've been up since 1 a.m.
Okay, so you've been working yourself up. Is this the first thing you've recorded today?
I came in today and he was dancing, pinballing off of the walls.
Dancing on Pat Riley's professional grave.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
The professional was an important word there.
Yeah, because I love Pat Riley. And Pat, just know that I'm doing a thing. And I love you. You're the greatest. You're the greatest. You're the greatest. But you don't get to throw your rings on the table and swing and miss 13 goddamn times on Kevin Durant. You don't. You're no longer the Godfather. You're no longer the Godfather.
2 days ago, or maybe 1 day
and you
ago,
drafted Justice Winslow over Devin Booker despite my tweets. I was tweeting for months, get Devin Booker. You failed. Failed the city.
What kind of bastard did you call Pat Riley a couple days ago when you were delighted at the prospect?
I called him a magnificent bastard because he'd played himself into the ideal scenario. The offer that was there for the Nets over the summer was no longer there. They had no leverage. Joe Tsai biffed it, and they were in prime position to get Kevin Durant. Finally, after all his failings, he was in prime position, and he got worked by some wet behind the ears, brand new owner that just strolls into the NBA and gets the second best player in the league. Dumb.
Are you rooting against the Suns now?
Fail the franchise, fail the fans, fail the city.
Are you rooting against the Suns now?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Kevin Durant is a very weird body. It looks like it could come undone at any second.
You want Durant to be hurt and have him not play for the Suns?
Truthfully? No, I don't want him to be hurt.
Why are we injuring him
I want to see Kevin Durant go for it and go after the Golden State Warriors. That's a pretty cool storyline, I guess. I want a superstar that's young, that can pair with Bam Adebayo. But a superstar that can pair with Jimmy Butler in the playoffs and really give me faith that we can beat anybody. I don't have that faith. I had that faith last year. I don't have that faith this year.
How would you feel if Pat Riley had stood up last week and said to his fan base that getting and acquiring Kevin Durant was not realistic? What do you think about managing expectations of a fan base?
He doesn't do that.
To hear that?
He doesn't do that.
I'm asking, would that make you feel better?
He's gaslighting. He juices us up. He revels in our belief that he can do it, and he hasn't been able to do it with Kevin Durant. Get me Damian Lillard.
He's not getting Damian Lillard.
Damian, for F's sake, leave Portland. It's killing you.
A couple of hours you need him to get Damian Lillard. There are many reasons that I like the Jimmy Butler nickname, but second on the list is the popular saying now of that's him or he's him. First is how Spanish people pronounce his name. How my mother's friends
Jimmy Butler.
talk about Jimmy Butler. Yes. Dave, what movie are you reviewing for us this week?
It's perfect, actually, because I feel like, Mike, you're in a position to talk about this. It's called The Volcano, Rescue from Wakari.
Ooh, I saw this.
So did I.
So this is about a volcano in New Zealand. Is that where it is? I'm blanking right now.
I think isn't it off the coast of Hawaii?
No, New Zealand.
Yeah,
I think it's in New Zealand, and it's a volcano where there are cruises who go there, and you take a shore excursion, like go on a Carnival cruise ship, and you sign up for a shore excursion, and you go to this island called White Island, and it's a dormant volcano until it's not. And there were all these tourists on a shore excursion taking photos, and all of a sudden the volcano explodes with ash, and there's phones going, and everyone's watching, and all of a sudden there's people dead. And this documentary goes through people who died, people who survived. The footage is incredible, which is what we're going to see in documentaries going forward, because everybody's recording everything as it's happening. And it's the true, unbelievable force of nature. And in this movie, you will find the winner of the best face tattoos ever. One of the characters, who is not a character, it's a documentary, is this incredibly spiritual, interesting guy. And the movie talks to people whose lives got ruined for various reasons, including death and destruction and scarring and everything else. And it scared the absolute crap out of me, but I was riveted by it. It's called The Volcano, and it's on some streaming channel. I want to say Netflix, but I could be wrong.
Netflix.
It is well worth your time. And it doesn't mean you shouldn't do shore excursions, but it sure as hell means that assumption of risk is a real thing.
I found it really captivating. I was hanging on every second of that film, and the detail of these people were burned alive, but their clothes are intact because it's the steam that's coming through their clothes. And you see this married couple where there's unburned parts of their skin where they were holding each other for dear life. It's really powerful, moving, really dramatic footage, and I give it a solid endorsement as well.
David, it goes without saying, right, that volcanoes are dangerous. However, when I was watching that documentary, I did not know that all of that could happen. I assumed I am putting an awful lot of faith in the excursion people and the people who profit off of let's go over there, that they understand that there are liability issues, that if that volcano erupts, it's not lava that's going to eat you up. You got to worry about everything that's happening there.
Yeah, so you sign documents that make it so you can worry about all you want, but your only way you step on the island is if you've agreed not to sue. But what about the excursions where you go bungee jumping or have you ever been skydiving?
I'm just telling you that if I was surrounded by people who had their cameras out after an excursion had dropped me off at a volcano that was now, I didn't see the lava, but I saw the smoke and nobody was running, I too would be confused about, like, should we be here right now? I don't think we should be here right now.
There's a documentary that is nominated for Best Picture called Fire of Love, which is amazing. And it's about, here's a twofer. It is about people who chase volcanoes, and they're volcano chasers and they're married to each other. And it may or may not end well for them, but it's like chasing tornadoes, right? You shouldn't be where things can happen, except they rarely happen. And if you get unlucky, you just tip your cap. So I don't have that view, because then you wouldn't leave your house.
Why am I tipping my cap? Because I'm unlucky that a volcano
No, you can't
erupted.
tip your cap when you're dead.
You tip your cap to the volcano?
You just to the timing of it. There's been a million excursions and a million people who went back and forth and saw White Island and said it was the coolest thing they ever saw, and they just happened to hit it when it exploded.
I want to ask you guys, if you were faced with a situation that had in it what we're talking about here, would you have been smart enough to go running and jump in the water and stay underwater as long as you could to avoid what was happening with the steam and what was happening there? Because there was one person who did that, but the rest of them were harmed. And I don't know what, in the panic of that moment, did you think, David, what would I do?
I figured I would go into the fetal position and start sucking my thumb.
Don't they
and
have
cover
like
my head
when you're like on your way to the volcano? There's no like announcement that's like, okay, if this thing explodes, here's what you're gonna do. You're going to jump into the water. You're like, shouldn't they be preparing people that are going to visit these volcanoes? Hey, in the event of an emergency, go jump in the water and swim as far. Like, I don't know. I just feel like they should be preparing people for this.
Is that like on the airplane where you're supposed to very calmly look in front and behind you and go to the exit upon a crash? That's exactly what happens in a plane crash. It's a very, very simple exiting of the plane.
An orderly
Everyone
process.
in order.
I did think that there would be more warnings that a volcano was about to erupt. I just thought that there would be more obvious signs that would afford people the time to make it to safety. That thing happened so quickly,
It's an avalanche.
It surprised me. It surprised
Same
me.
as an avalanche.
I just didn't. I always thought, like, historically, Mount Vesuvius, it looks like it's about to blow. There's smoke coming from it.
Bringing it full circle, I believe the executive producer on that volcano movie was Ron Howard.
Yes, it was. And Leo DiCaprio.